Hey folks, what's going on? This is Shadow Stars coming at you with another video. In today's video, I'm going to split it into two different parts. The first section, I'm going to try to bring you some new information, or rather information that I really don't see being covered by a lot of folks. I want to really shed some more light, bring more context to the situation. I'm going to be looking at some of these senior officers and board of directors for AMC. The second half, I'm going to be covering two YouTubers, one by request of Donahue George, and the other one will be Scavenger Stonks. I'm going to be looking at what type of videos they push out, watch their most recent one, and call out some of the BS. So without further ado, let's get started. So first half, like I mentioned, going to be looking at some of these senior officers. What do they do? What roles do they play? And I'm going to be looking at their stock trades. So the first person on the list that I'm going to be looking at is going to be Elizabeth First Frank. She is the EVP, Executive Vice President of Worldwide Programming and Chief Content Officer. So we got this nice big picture of this lady here. She served as the EVP since July of 2012. Between August 2010 and 2012, July 2012, she served as Senior VP, Strategy and Strategic Partnerships, blah, blah, blah. Served as Senior Vice President of Global Programs of AmeriCares. She worked as VP of Corporate Strategic Planning for Time Warner, partner at McKinsey & Company, blah, 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 blah. All in all, she's been with the company for quite some time. So 12 years. So she's not someone that's new to the company. She's been with the company for quite some time. And I do want to stress that looks like she got her BS at Lehigh University, MBA at Harvard. So she got her BS in 1980. She entered in 1987. If you assume that she was 18 when she entered university, she'd be in her early to mid 50s right now. The second person I'm going to be covering is going to be Sean Goodman. He is the EVP and Chief Financial Officer, CFO. So he recently joined the company. He joined the company in February of 2020. He was Senior VP and CFO of Asbury Automotive Group. He did CFO and CAO of Unify, SVP, CFO of Americas for Landis GYR Group, AG, blah, blah, blah. Strategy and finance roles in Home Depot. He began his career in corporate finance and M&As with Morgan Stanley, accounting and auditing with Deloitte. He's a CPA, certified public accountant, bachelor's in business science from University of Cape Town in South Africa, and an MBA from Harvard Business School. So these two folks, master's and BA from Harvard. You have an MBA from Harvard. So fairly well-educated folks. Looks like I can't speak to if they're fully qualified for the positions they're in across the industry. I don't know. I just haven't done the research. I'll be frank with you folks. But initial glance, I think that, hey, you know what? On surface glance, looks legit, looks good. So now, why am I covering all this information? It's because I want you to take a look at, hey, these folks that you supposedly trust, between your CEO, Adam Aaron, and all these other folks, the SVP of Human Resources, General Counsel, Chief Operations, etc. Actions speak louder than words. So I want to know, what have they been doing with their shares? So I try to provide you guys with content, with information, data, so that you can make a better decision, more informed. So right here, we have Elizabeth Frank, her EVP, Chief Content and Program. This is information I pulled from the SEC Edgar website, their Form 4 filings. So what I wanted to cover with her is that, hey, look at, 2013, December 17th, 4,258 shares. She was awarded 23,755 shares. Following year, she disposed of a little over 1,000. And then from then on, look at all those RSUs that she's being granted, that she's being given. And we all know that, hey, these named officers, these senior VPs, these EVPs, their compensation is a mix of salary, just regular cash that they get, and compensation through stocks and other bonuses. So you got RSUs, restricted stock units, and you have PSUs, performance stock units. So the thing I want to establish here is that, hey, look at the trail. Look at their holdings. Look at how many shares that they hold. What do they do with them? From 2013 until 2020, in that 7-year span, or is that what, 8-year span? Did she sell any shares? She went from 4,258, ballooned up to 21,000 or 213,780 shares as of December 28th, 2020. All those RSUs that she received, all those PSUs she received, whether that's from the EIP, Equity Incentive Plan, and other performance PSUs that she was given based on her performance, look at how many stocks that she was awarded. And how many did she sell? Besides the ones that she disposed for tax withholding, did she sell any in that 7-year period? No, she sold 0. Now come 2021, March 16th, March 26th, June 3rd, November 5th, December 29th, January 10th of 2022, February 28th, March 29th. In the previous 7 years, she sold 0 shares. But suddenly, now that AMC got that price spike, sells 40,000 shares, sells 60,000 shares, sells 21,000 shares. All those PSUs that she was granted that got delivered to stock, 79,000 shares, 35,000 shares sold, 3,000 shares charitable donation, and then 12,730 shares sold. All in all, in that 1-year period, basically from March 16th, 2021 to March 29th, 2022, basically 1 year, she sold 361,472 shares. She made roughly almost $2 million off those shares. You know what her average compensation was? Between the years of 2015 to 2020, her compensation was around that 2 million mark. But she made off like a bandit. In that 1 year, she cashed out nearly $9.2 million for a person who was never selling stock in 7 years prior. And every time she gets shares, RSUs, PSUs, immediately sells it. She's only holding on to currently 4,168 shares. Sure, she has a lot more shares being that are going to vest under the EIP plans. So she has, if she stays 2022, she gets some then, 2023, 2024, 2025. She gets all those RSUs and all those PSUs and then some of those bonuses. Besides that, if you don't count those, she only has 4,168. Look at this. She had 93,000 shares in June 3rd. She sold 21,000. She received 70,000 PSUs, obviously 32,000 for tax withholding, but she sold 79,000. So from her peak of 213,000, she went down to 126 shares. She gets more RSUs granted. She gets more PSUs. Then she sells more, back down to 3,539. She gets 126,000 more PSUs to stock. Sells more, down to 4,168. What does that tell you? And some might say, hey, look, some of these were per rule 10b5-1. And we've known the excuse Adam Aaron has said, oh, this is all part of his retirement planning. This lady is in her early to mid 50s, especially in 2021. In the past 7 years, she never sold a single share, never reported it. Suddenly, that 1 year, she receives them, she keeps on selling them. Buys them, sells them. She receives them, sells them. Now, maybe she has a need. Maybe she needs that money. I don't know. But for me, the way I see things, this doesn't instill confidence in me. The moment you get extra shares, the moment your RSUs vest, you're able to get them as common stock, you sell them. Every time. No different. Sean Goodman, your EVP, your CFO, your treasurer, starts off 111,000. Look at all those PSUs he was granted. All 88,000 disposed for tax withholding. All those RSUs he's given again from the EIP plan goes up to 202,000 shares. And what does he do? April 16th, 2021. 45,404 shares sold. What was that? August 16th? 45,405 shares sold. He gets more PSUs, sells all of them down after disposing some for tax withholding, 111,300 shares sold. He gets more shares granted under RSUs granted under the EIP, sells them all. Gets more RSUs granted, RSUs and PSUs, sell those shares. From 202 at that peak down to 4,420. Sure, look at all that ape and all the common stock shares that he has going to be vested in 2023, 2024, 2025, etc. But he holds nothing. 4,420. And don't forget, AMC is the one that said, hey, you know what? Everyone was so hyped when Adam Aaron said, oh, you know what? We're going to put in place, I'm going to ask the board to vote on, hey, these NEOs, we're going to have some requirements of how much stock that they need to keep, that they need to hold. They're putting that in place basically after everyone has sold out. They suspended that requirement, albeit it was much lower requirements, back during the pandemic. But look, in a span of 11 months, this guy sold 446,806 shares. banked $12.6 million. He made a hefty amount of change too. For him, I see it as more crazy because look at the actual transactions. December 2nd, he's granted those RSUs from the EIP. 5 days later, sells the shares. January 3rd, 2022, RSUs granted, and they vest. And you got PSUs that vest. 3 days later, sells shares, significantly down. Same story, November 1st, 2021. Look at all those PSUs he was granted. Bam, 8 days later, selling those shares. It's the same story. Adam Aaron says, oh, look at it. I have almost, 3 million shares of AMC and 3 million shares of APE. How many shares does he actually have on hand right now? As of the last Form 4 filings, Adam Aaron only has 793,000. So basically 800,000 shares of AMC and 800,000 shares of APE. But look at everyone else. Chris Cox, your SVP, Senior VP of, is Chief Accounting Officer, 1,250. Your General Counsel and Secretary, 4,051. John McDonald, your U.S. Operations EVP, 1,463. We already covered Frank Elizabeth, 4,168. Your Sean Goodman, your CFO, 4,420. The only one not here, really, your Chief HR Officer, 147,000. But everyone else, look at them, cashing out. What does that tell you? I'm going to be going through the rest of these folks. I didn't do Carla, I didn't do Chris, Kevin, Steven, Craig, John, Mark. Oh, obviously I need to do Adam Aaron. But I'm going to go through all of them. But nonetheless, I think everyone knows the story that, hey, within the last 2 years, not a single one of these folks really bought shares. They were only selling shares. Now, generally, it doesn't matter if a CEO buys or sells, right? For example, we can talk about Tesla. Elon Musk has been selling Tesla shares left and right. Tons, millions of shares. Tesla's still a functioning company, right? It's been getting hit hard, but nonetheless, it's still a fairly functional company. And we know that, hey, he's been selling. The CEO, big guy, the big honcho, he's been selling shares. So we can't just say that, hey, you know what? Just because these folks are selling, this is a bad sign. No, we can't say that. But what I can say is, if we look further in, we look at the timings of, hey, look at the compensation structure, look at them, how have they been trading? This person has been with the company for 12 years. In 7 years, she didn't sell a single share. Then suddenly come 2021, 2022, she's selling them nonstop. We don't have a long history with Sean Goodman because he's new to the company because he just recently joined. But this guy, always selling his shares. What does that tell you? What vibe does that give? To me, it tells me, you know what? These folks, they don't have much trust in the company. That's the vibe I get. And the thing is that his total compensation for his position as CFO between 2015 and 2020 averages 2.3 to 2.6 million. But as I mentioned, he cashed out 12.6 million. She cashed out almost 2 million. And now when you see news that, AMC, all Adam Aaron's asking them, "Oh, hey, I don't need a pay raise," and you're asking all these other executives, "Hey, don't take a pay raise." You think that is really significant? What you need to do is you need to revise those EIPs because you cashed out big. You made more than what? Her compensation on average 2015 to 2020 in that 1.5 to 2.1 mil range. So if you use 2 mil as a easy figure, she made 4 years worth of her total more than 4 years worth of compensation in 2021 from selling her shares. 4 years worth. Sean Goodman, as I said, 2.3 to 2.6 million a year on average for this position from 2015 to 2020. 12.6 million. So that's what? Almost 5 years worth of his total compensation cashed out in shares? So asking them to take a minor pay cut or to not accept a pay increase for a year, I call that a PR stunt because it's meaningless. These folks all cashed out. And good for them. They were smart. But for folks to be praising the board of directors, to be praising Adam Aaron, when all your executives, all your EVPs and your SVPs are selling shares left and right, don't go and say that, oh, hey, you know what? Oh, I really believe in the company. Oh, look at all these shares that I hold. Yeah, look at how many shares you currently have. And how many shares, based on the rules that you set forth, within the last year, could you sell any shares? Your average salary is what, 1.5 mil? Your base salary is 1.5 mil, right? And you're supposed to have what, 8 times? Back in 2019, your CEO, president, and other named executive officers, NEOs, were supposed to hold 3 times their base salary and 2 times their base salary. Yeah, sure, you raised that after everyone sold all their shares. But nonetheless, if it's what, 8 times 1.5? What? 8 times 1.5 million. So what is that? 12 million? 12 million divided by what's the stock price right now? Let's say average combined price of 5. You need to hold 2.4 million shares. Yeah, you only have combined Ape and AMC 1.6 million, or yeah, 1.6 million. You don't hold enough. You only hold enough because you count the shares that haven't vested yet. Same thing for all these other folks. Let's be clear. I'm calling out the BS. So I'm going to be working on this. This takes some time because I want to be very careful on going through all the filings. Make sure if they have any amendments, I catch those too. And also go through. They had some interesting filings of the different changes in the EIP. For example, when they were giving out these PSUs for 20-day VWAP prices of what, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. They later revised these PSUs down from $28 to $4, from $32 to $8. They reduced those targets, so they are much easier to reach. You reduce the bar, you set the standards low, and these folks made off like bandits. You changed how soon that they vest. Yes, you made it a requirement of them having to hold for 1 year. But guess what? All selling them. And we'll see the exact path of what the rest of these folks do. But based on what the two people I've looked at so far and looking at how many shares everyone's sitting at right now, probably a similar story. But you know what? Let's see where the data takes us. So that's going to be the first half of the video. Second half of the video, I'm going to make a separate video, looks like, because we're getting too long. I'm going to be covering these folks here, Donahue George and Scavenger Stonks. It's going to be real interesting. And that's going to be the end of the video. If you guys like the content, please let me know. Comments below. Hit the like. Hit the subscribe. Share this with folks who might find this interesting. I don't push out hopium. I like to present people with real facts. Data that everyone has access to. Something that's not locked behind some sort of paywall. I don't grift. I don't monetize my stuff. All I want to do is provide you is legit, reputable information and data. Some of the stuff that, hey, these so-called AMC apes aren't giving you. A lot of those folks are grifters, frauds. They're not doing DD. I've yet to see one person really go in depth like me covering this stuff. I've yet to see someone going in through and looking at the domestic box office, looking at the breakdowns, going through earnings calls, grabbing that information, going through financial statements, looking at their 10Qs, their 10Ks, looking at years of previous filings and seeing what their performance is, looking at the margins. None of them. So until next time, folks, this is going to be Shadow Stars. Once again, like, subscribe, share it. Got any questions? Leave them down below in the comments. Stuff you don't like, let me know. Critique it. I'd love to improve on. Improve. Always room to improve, I know. So until next time, folks, Shadow Stars out.